The Projection Booth podcast is sponsored by Scarecrow Video. Try out Scarecrow's rent-by-mail service. Choose from over 150,000 films and get Blu-rays, 4Ks, and DVDs delivered directly to your door. Visit scarecrow.com today.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
People pay good money to see this movie. When they go out to a theater, they want cold sodas, hot popcorn, and no monsters in the projection booth.
Everyone pretend podcasting isn't boring.
Turn it off. Turn it off.
He's been called warped, freaky, absurd, and just plain disgusting. Now, for his first starring role ever, they're letting Tom Green do it his way.
Bye-bye, Daddy! I'm going to get a jobby!
So he's writing.
God, the characters are lame. I'm a loser! I wish I was dead!
Acting.
Can't hear you!
Building sets. Directing.
Daddy!
And producing.
Money's no object. The helicopter, the $150,000, the $100, then you add the $750,000. That's all my money.
With his own.
How are you?
I'd be a lot better if you'd smack my legs with this bamboo stick.
Special touch.
Oh, yeah! Oh, God, I felt the tingle!
Freddy Got Fingered.
Jeez Louise! Say it.
Jeez Louise.
Jeez Louise! Jeez Louise! Say it, say it.
Shooting now in theaters 2001.
No, I just like to say Jeez Louise, that's all. That's all. I just like to say Jeez Louise, that's all, okay? So, I just like to say Jeez Louise.
Welcome to the Projection Booth. I'm your host, Mike White. Joining me once again is Mr. Rob St. Mary.
I'm not just moving to Hollywood to work in a cheese sandwich factory.
Also back in the booth is Ms. Heather Drain.
Daddy, would you like some sausage? Daddy, would you like some sausages?
Comedy Month concludes with a look at Tom Green's anti-comedy, Freddy Got Fingered. Released in 2001. This was a world before 9/11. This was April 20th, 2001. The film stars Green as Gord Brody, an artist who wants to get his drawings turned into a show. He heads to Hollywood, where he gets a job making delicious cheese sandwiches.
Just thought people might be getting a little hungry. It's a delicious cheese sandwich. A delicious cheese sandwich. Isn't that delicious? Isn't that a delicious cheese sandwich?
Has a disastrous pitch meeting and goes back to live with his parents. We will be spoiling this film as we discuss it, so if you don't want anything ruined, please turn off the show and watch the movie. We will still be here when you get back. So, Rob, when was the first time you saw Freddy Got Fingered, and what did you think?
When Tom Green was big in the late 90s, early aughts, I didn't have cable, so I grew up in a house without cable. As a matter of fact, the first thing that my mother did when I moved out of the house was get 3 things for that house that I wanted as a kid. A dog, air conditioning, and cable. It was like as soon as I moved out, and I was like, okay, I see how it is. I didn't get the LeBaron, but my mom got that stuff. So anyway, this must have been, I think, maybe 2 years ago. Criterion had a section on the movies produced by MTV Films. So that included Jackass, but also artier fare like Election. And of course, this one is in there. And I thought, you know what? If it's good enough for Criterion, maybe I should watch it. Because I had seen the trailer, I had heard the awful Siskel and Ebert did their review.
It's a vomitorium of a movie starring Green as Gord, an obnoxious retard who makes it his life's work to freak out his dad, played with teeth-gnashing scorn by Rip Torn. On TV, we can't show you the scene where Green swings a newborn baby around his head by its umbilical cord, or 2 scenes involving the sexual organs of a stallion and a bull elephant, or when he skins a deer and runs around wearing its bloody carcass, or any of the jokes about child abuse. The MPAA gave this movie an R rating. That's definitive evidence that the MPAA ratings board is morally adrift, and that we need a workable adult rating for movies like this.
You're absolutely right. This is ground zero. It has to be ground zero of bad comedies. And Tom Green with this horse and with this elephant, if a woman was doing that, this movie would be banned in Tijuana, let alone getting an R rating. And it's just so horrible. And he's such an unfunny guy. He should be flipping burgers somewhere. Why is Tom Green getting movies? And who wants to see this guy? You know, even in a stupid comedy, there has to be a setup before you have a punchline. This is just, hey, let's just do a bunch of punchlines. And the punchlines are, let's do gross out stuff.
Roger Ebert just loved this one. And so I was like, I don't really have a way in because I wasn't really a fan of him. So I watched it and I was like, oh my God, this is brilliant and horrible at the same time. As I wrote on my letterbox, I go, this is absurdist and surrealist, and it fits right in the context of everything else that was going on at that time. Because if you remember in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was all of the gross out comedies. And a lot of the gross out comedies also had like sentimentality about family. And it was like he took all of that and just amped it and satirized it at the same time. So I just was like, I don't know if you can sit down and watch this like you would watch anything in particular. But if you look at it as like a piece of art that you can dissect as a satire piece, I think it's brilliant. There's sections of it that do make me laugh really fucking hard. I can see that people would enjoy this probably under substance as well. It feels like in a lot of ways when I was on, it was one of the first episodes I was on with you. I used to talk about how Bloodsucking Freaks has all of these layers of meaning and symbolism. And I'm like, did Joel M. Reed seek to do that? I'm like, I don't think so. And there's part of me that I just think Tom Green was being Tom Green. And at the same time, there is all of that in here.
And Heather, how about yourself?
That was beautiful. By the way, I entered this film. I saw it. I didn't get to see it in the theater, but I remember renting it. I entered it as a Tom Green fan. I loved his show on MTV. I was even a fan of the Bum song. For anybody who remembers that. In fact, I still occasionally have been noticing it because, my bum is on the gum. Like, it's just Tom Green for me. It's always been like that great mix of humor that is really, on one hand, completely stupid. Like, it's not intellectual. It is honestly going to just immediately just hit a lot of people the wrong way. But he's always doing just like this sense of complete, what you said, absurdism. It was almost like Dada, just the craziness of it, of some of the stuff that he would do on a show. And just legit funny. I just find him like incredibly funny. So I was excited about the movie despite the horrible trailer. This was a bad era for how trailers were edited. I'm not a fan of how trailers are cut now, to be honest. If you go back and look at the early aughts and late 90s for comedies, it's rough. Bubble Boy was another one. And that was another film that was actually like a really fun subversive comedy that did not get promoted
love
like
Bubble
what
Boy,
it really was.
We'll go to my grave just saying that's a wonderful film. There's a part of me that really wants to cover that at some point in the future.
You should. It's a really tremendously underrated film. I love Bubble Boy, but it was promoted terribly. And rewatching the trailer for Freddy Got Fingered, prepping for this, I was like, God, this trailer's terrible. But I remember reading the movie, and the movie is, I wouldn't call it a masterpiece. There are parts that I think, especially revisiting it, have fallen flat for me. But the parts that make me laugh really incredibly hard are so unhinged, so beautifully unhinged, and such a great antidote to that, to your point, Rob, to that whole, because I knew people, I actually dated a guy that accused me of not liking gross out humor because I didn't like Me, Myself, and Irene. Keep in mind, this was already me watching Pink Flamingos as my meditation tape in college, but I couldn't handle the Forellis. So it's because I'm a girl. That's why he's an ex. Fair to me, it was like, it's like Tom Green being like, oh, you think that's okay, cute. Check this out. And then having this amazing cast. We'll get all into all of that. But I have a huge soft spot for this movie. It's not perfect. Obviously, it's not for anybody. I'm amazed that people hated it because I'm like, if you know who Tom Green is, why'd you even watch it? I haven't watched The Notebook. Ebert even reviewing this was absurd. It's like, why? Who was clamoring for Roger Ebert's opinion on Freddy Got Fingered? But anywho, what about you, Mike?
Well, for me, I saw this for the first time. It was probably DVD. It probably wasn't a VHS tape because I think by 2002, when I probably saw this, we had moved on from VHS mostly. Say what you will about the formats, and I did not grow up with Tom Green. Obviously, I was aware of Tom Green. You really couldn't escape Tom Green because he was just on MTV in so many places doing the Pepsi commercials.
I'm on a mission. I'm on the road to number one. Going to all the colleges.
Going to all the NCAA colleges.
I'm going to prove that people love the taste of Pepsi One.
Hello, I have some Pepsi One here.
New Pepsi One with a new secret recipe that makes it taste too good to be called diet.
Cactuses love the taste of Pepsi One. People love the taste of Pepsi One.
New Pepsi One, true cola taste, 1 calorie.
All of these things. So I knew of him, but I really didn't watch the show. I really didn't realize his impact. Like, I didn't realize that so much of Jackass took from Tom Green. Just this whole thing of like him waking up his parents and stuff. Like, it feels like Bam Margera's whole shtick was very Tom Green. All this stuff with the skateboarding, all this. I mean, he's a very, I want to say he's only like a year older than I am. So it's weird to be like contemporaries with Tom Green. He reminds me a lot of myself before I got on medication. Like, I could swing very wide with the pendulum of emotions, like crying jags where I couldn't catch my breath from crying so hard. And then also manic episodes where I kind of sounded like this with just the intensity that he speaks. The whole thing of him repeating things. I know that's kind of the anti-comedy thing. It's funny. It's not funny. It's really not funny. It swings back to funny.
Isn't that a delicious cheese sandwich?
And the repetition. Oh my God.
A delicious cheese sandwich.
Kind of drives me a little crazy. Like, listening to his audio commentary for this. Oh my God, that was an ordeal. And he's kind of an ordeal for me. I really missed the boat with him. When I watched him on Last One Laughing recently, I liked him there, and he was still doing the same shtick, like making people laugh, which you're not supposed to do on that show, making people laugh by just repeating the phrase delicious cheese sandwich over and over and over again. I didn't necessarily get that this was supposed to be an anti-comedy. I thought he was being sincere when it came to this film. I have since rewatched it recently with that in mind. I still don't find it that funny. There are things, obviously, like the sausage song. I enjoyed that. I didn't realize that taping meat to his head was kind of his thing. That was one of his first things that he did on his early cable access show. It's not my style of humor.
The thing that's good that you sent along with this, and I think we can talk about them in parallel because I think it helps, is the documentary. There's a documentary that just came out like in the last year or two that actually he directed, which I was like, oh God, I'm like, people directing their own documentaries, like, we're in trouble. But I think that he did a really nice job interrogating process, where it all comes from, and that repetition of word thing and some of his humor choices in that has been amped up. A lot of that comes from, as he said, it came from Letterman, and I can't help but think of the connection between Letterman and how Letterman does that. And then also one of my favorites, who's also been on the show, is Chris Elliott. Chris Elliott was doing a lot of just anti-humor at a time in the 80s and early 90s that people just, they didn't even know what the hell they were looking at when he was doing that stuff.
Mike, you mentioning Bam Margera. And I'm almost now, you're making me want to go down like some weird rabbit hole where I have like a graph of which started first. Because I know Bam originally started doing that when he was doing the CKY videos, which predate Jackass. And I'm just outing myself on all things right now of questionable comedy. CKY, I could take or leave skateboarding. But there's some really just surreal comedy on those, particularly like anything with Brandon DiCamillo. Like there's a song they did called Mustard Man. Like they did a whole song and music video to torment a friend of theirs because he hated mustard. That's funny. It makes me laugh. I'm curious, like, if the parallel, if there was like influences or if it was just like this weird zeitgeist of just these young guys that, yeah, we love punk rock, we love skateboarding, and we love torturing our family and being just really obnoxious and irreverent. And yeah, this is not for everybody. I think it's good that we have you, like, always, you're our host. But I've known way more people that hate, not just like strong, oh, it wasn't for me, hate this movie, more than I've known people that really liked it. So this will be juicy. It'll be good.
It's interesting when it comes to the whole skateboarding video thing. Like within just the last few months, I've interviewed a few people, editors, sound guys, where they got their start with skate videos. And like even, growing up, I was never a skateboarder because I have absolutely no sense of balance, but I grew up with a lot of friends who were skateboarders, and there was one among them who was a videographer. He would record everything. He would edit stuff, the old VCR to VCR type of editing and everything. And then, they started to introduce skits into things. I'm sure a lot of it was coming from, the Thrasher videos that were out. I mean, I remember them talking a lot about the search for Animal Chin and just like being very close to that culture, but also on the outs of it, just because I knew who Stacy Peralta was. I knew Bill Danforth, who he was, but I wasn't in that world necessarily. But yeah, it's interesting how many people got their start in that world and that are still obviously working in the industry today, that I'm still interviewing people and they're just like, oh yeah, I used to edit skate videos. It's like, that's pretty fucking cool that's where a lot of DIY ethos came from.
I'm on the younger end of Gen X. So I'm like on the cusp. You're a bit older than me, 5-6 years older than me. So it seems like skate kids that I knew when I was in like middle school and stuff, they were all high school kids who were a good 5-6 years older. They were all about your age, about what Tom Green's age was. So there was really this combination of punk rock and skate culture and early VHS, like you could get your hands on a camcorder and do stuff. Letterman was probably the most out there at the time because the other thing that was on at 11:30 was Carson, and he was just stayed in for their grandparents. Like by comparison, like Letterman was really shaking things up.
Can I just say I was absolutely thrilled watching that Tom Green documentary, the clips that he chose from David Letterman. When the one clip came on and it was Letterman who found this woman at her job and they had been to her house, as soon as that came up, I was like, oh my God, I remember this. And like said the lines as he's saying them. See this guy? He was sitting on your bed. That killed me when I was younger. And it was just so great to see that clip again. Fucking Letterman was so awesome. And I just loved the whole thread of how much Tom Green loved Letterman and the excitement. Cause I also read a lot of Green's autobiography as well. And, he's there like, yeah, and then Dave made fun of my $40 Gap sweater, and then they play the clip, and here he is, coming out, and it's like, oh, did you buy that sweater at the Gap? It's like, yep, great. It was so nice to see and to hear him meet his hero.
To me, for my money, it was one of the best gags Tom Green ever did on his show. Was he was on like a cruise ship, and there was one of the workers named Serial Carpets, and they spent 15 minutes being like, Serial Carpets, and then finally we did to see Serial Carpets.
What's your name? Oh, Carpets, Serial Carpets, Serial Carpets.
And I'm not doing it justice because I am not a comedian. Nor am I Tom Green, but to me, it was that irreverence. 'Cause I've heard some people hate on Jackass, and I was just like, oh, it's just grossed out. But I'm like, but you kind of love these guys. You get to know them as people, and you really do care about them, and you enjoy them. And sometimes to the point where I don't even like seeing some of the stunts because I'm like, oh, don't do that. Don't do that to your butthole. You're a good guy. But and with Tom Green, it was like, to me, it was always like when he would do the weirder stuff that had that great strangeness about it. Because if anybody's just doing something that's just obvious and dumb, it's not going to stick. I've made the same defense for Beavis and Butthead, where some people just would be like, oh, that show's dumb. And I'm like, it's actually very far from dumb. And it holds up. I love Beavis and Butthead. And it's fascinating, this whole zeitgeist. All of this stuff coming from MTV in the 90s. It's so weird to me watching this movie with the budget it has. I don't know if this, mentioning like the skateboard videos, I kept thinking, I wonder if this movie would hit different if it had a fraction of the budget and was shot real DIY. Do it, not like Trash Humpers level, but maybe keep the cast, keep all of that. But because just that, the way it was edited and all of that felt very Hollywood, but it didn't feel like a satire to me. That felt like the studio being like, we got to have some control over this because this guy's unhinged.
The most unrealistic part of this movie is the fact that there's an American named Gord.
Thank you. The most Canadian name.
I have never met an American named Gord. As a Detroiter, I have met many Canadians by Gord.
I kept having that disconnect because I'm like, Gord, what's next? Where's his hockey hair? Are we going to have a bag of put ketchup potato chips and what was that? Like a Max Webster album in the background. I love Max Webster.
You got to get your double from Timmy's. That's right.
A lot of this movie does feel like there's something about Mary at times, especially, having Harlan Williams show up. I fucking love Harlan Williams. Speaking of another underrated comedy, Rocket Man. He is so fucking good in Rocket Man. I love that movie. I really enjoy him. And, he kind of throws it back to something about Mary, and then even casting of Freddy himself, Eddie Kaye Thomas. We're going right back to his role as Finch in American Pie. So it's like interesting to see. For me, it's like this movie is already starting to speak to the movies that came before it, even with some of the casting choices. And yeah, they are spectacular. I kind of wish that Freddy had a little bit more to do. He is great playing this dweeb and just playing that daddy's boy. Just, I'm the one that got the job. I'm the one that, is fulfilling the promises and the dreams of our parents. And he's just such a little dickhead.
And he's totally disrespected. Like in that one scene where it's, oh, I got to go to work and all this and that, great dad. And his Rip Torn's like, yeah, whatever. It's like he doesn't like any of his kids. He can't like either of them, really.
The number one son license plate on the LeBaron. And I love that the Gord is just, that's me. I'm the number one son.
It says number one son on the license plate. That's me. I'm the number one son.
What about me, Mom?
You're number one son, too.
But how come Gord gets a LeBaron and I don't?
It's because they love me more than they love you.
No, they don't.
Oh, yeah, I only see one LeBaron, Freddy. I only see one. I don't see two LeBarons.
Gordy.
Well, do you see two?
Gordy.
Hey. Do you see two LeBarons?
Gordy.
Knock it off. Where's your LeBaron, Freddy? Where's your LeBaron?
Boys. Boys.
How many LeBarons? Are there two LeBarons?
Hey.
Shut up.
Hey. Gord. This car is more than a gift. It's kind of a investment in you. It means I believe in my son. You be a good man.
Father, I will be a good man.
You make your daddy proud. You hear me?
I'm gonna make you proud, Daddy. I'm gonna make you so proud.
You make your daddy proud.
You're gonna be so proud.
Proud?
Proud. Get the fuck out of the way!
The casting in this movie, speaking of the casting, Rip Torn, for my money, is, and there are things I love about this film. I'm obviously not a hater. He is the best thing in this movie. Rip Torn. And it shocks me. And of course, it's the internet. Mileage may vary. I don't know how true any of this is. that he wasn't even the first choice. And I'm like, and some of the choices I saw that they vetted before or tried to vet, and it didn't happen before Torn, I was like, Gary Shandling? Like, they just went through the Larry Sanders cast, basically, and Torn was third. I cannot imagine Gary Shandling in this role. I can't imagine, maybe I like Jeffrey Tambor. He's awesome, but nobody else could do this role but Rip Torn. Rip Torn has that chaos element in him. He is chaos. If he was a woman, he'd be Eris, the goddess of chaos. That is Rip Torn. And he also has that underground, irreverent spirit about him. Even he was doing like Outer Limits and then doing like Maidstone in the 60s and doing wild avant-garde theater. And so Rip Torn is like perfect to do this kind of like insane, very anti-mainstream comedy with a completely mainstream budget and distribution. He's perfect. And he's so angry in this film. It's like he was doing angel dust in the trailer. Crazy in it. And I love him.
Well, and he never stopped working, but there was that weird bump that he got from Men in Black, where it was just like, remember this guy? Like I said, he hadn't gone away. He was Hercules that same year. He had been in Down Periscope a few years prior to that. Like, he's always been around. Canadian Bacon, another classic. But it's like he got that little bump from Men in Black, and it was just like, look out, he's back. And Rip Torn, by the way, always used to confuse him with Rip Taylor, because Rip Torn obviously is a joke name, and then Rip Taylor doesn't have a joke name, but I always mix those two up because I was just like, well, of course the guy who's named Rip Torn is throwing confetti everywhere. And another nice little nod to the end of the first Jackass movie.
And that's why I had to send you guys the bit about Maidstone, because I'm like, if Tom Green was a pain in the ass director, which I don't know if he was or not, I'm like, that's nothing compared to what Rip Torn dealing with Norman Mailer in their fight, which included a hammer to the skull and someone getting their ear bitten off a la Mike Tyson. It's crazy.
We're already having a heat wave in this area as it is. And then I'm thinking about young, virile Rip Torn on probably 20 hits of ass, hidden Norman Mailer, who was such a knob. Leighton Mailer, just a terrible person. Stabbed his pregnant wife at one point, by the way. So fuck him. And there's Rip Cool as the cucumber. Call it baby. Baby Norman. So we could do a whole episode on just that scene of Maidstone. I would be so glad to guest on that. Torn's perfect. He's perfect in this film. And it's spanking his bare ass, going, fuck me, Gord.
You want to fuck your daddy? You want to fuck your daddy? Fuck your daddy.
It's not right. It's Rip Torn. And somebody, and Gary Shandling doing that. I can't. And he would probably just sound like embarrassed trying to say the lines. Fuck me. I don't know. I can't do Gary Shandling, but Rip Torn. And to having Julie Hagerty too as the mother, like the great Julie Hagerty. I always love seeing her pop up in something. She's always just like a familiar light for me when I see her in a movie.
Little underdone as far as her role goes. Like, I wish there was a little bit more of her, but she's basically the long-suffering wife. I do like that she ends up leaving him and starts getting some of that good dick from Shaq.
Who's like angsting out. She has got that him. What would be the opposite of dickmatized? Vagina-atized. I got this person for you. Like embarrassed for her. It's so. I'm just like, oh, that's lovely. Go get that. You go Julie Hagerty. Though granted, being with the Melee Rip Torn, but this is a Rip Torn. This is the Jim character. I think who's even more angry and maybe equally legal, litigious than actions, but yeah, this family dynamic, and then you have Gord as a character. Now, the question I have for both of you: do you feel like Gord as a character simultaneously uplifts the film? Because some of the funny spits are Tom Green, but then his character is such a bad penny for everything he touches that sometimes it's not funny. It's just, oh geez, Gord, you have such a nice Canadian name. What are you doing?
On one level, I could relate to his character because I got that they're working class, like dad works at the mill or something. And he wants a creative life. He wants to be this cartoonist. And in the beginning, he's drawing this X-ray cat cartoon, and he's like, I'm going to be an animator. And this is like his goal. And so that's basically the main driver for him, is to try and figure out how to establish himself. So there's part of me that like can relate to that. Oh man, like I'm so far away from ever having a creative life, because basically the best I could do would be to go work at the bank, which is what the other character has. So his brother. So to me, I can relate to that. At the same time, his character's gone. If you did the things he does in reality, like I say, you have to look at this as a cartoon to a certain extent, because if you were going to take this as sincerity, like just him stopping the car and running over to the farm and helping out with the stud, the stud horse, I think that might get you institutionalized. They might be doing a McMurphy on there. McMurray on you there. It's at the end, because you're just a little too unhinged. But the one thing that I really love about this, and we talk about the other characters, is I really love the Betty character. And that was the thing that really I absolutely connected to in this film. I said, wow, I'm like, here's a character who she's a woman who has sexual agency, who's in a wheelchair, and it doesn't faze him at all. He's just like, oh, like big deal. Like she's in a wheelchair, and other people comment about the fact that she's in a wheelchair, has a handicap, but she like does not allow that and those expectations to stop what she wants to do. And I was like, that I think is one of the rare things where it's like, oh, you pity. It's so sad. There's always this pity for the disabled character. Not in this movie. Like she's treated just any other normal, quote unquote, and I'm using air quotes, normal person, which I thought that was rather bold and interesting given the time. I don't think anyone was doing that then.
Oh my God. I love Betty so much. And Marisa Coughlan, I could be dubious. She's dynamite here. I loved her performance so much. I love her weird little sort of Beavis-y like giggle. Like she's got this little stutter giggle. And she's like that. She's as unhinged in some ways as Gord. After he first meets Betty and she, oh yeah, here's my number. And he's selling his like Harlan Williams character. He's like, oh my God, it's so weird. I asked a girl out. She said yes. And he's about to, but he's like, yeah, it is weird. You know, her legs don't work or something. But then that's dropped. Like it's not really, he's like, okay, cool, whatever. Like it's a non-issue, which is super refreshing. It's not made into any sort of like after school special kind of vibes. And another thing, other than like a slur that Jim, Rip Torn's character, yells at Freddy and Harlan Williams outside, there's no like homophobia. There's no, and this era was rife with gay jokes and also a lot of sexism. And neither one. No, the women, Julie Hagerty's kind of, she believes her husband. She's like, man, I'm out. I'm going to get with Shaq. And Betty's just, oh my God, my favorite. And the way Coughlan delivers this line nails me. It just kills me. It's like they have their reunion and he's giving her jewels. And she's doing that big teary-eyed where it's like, I don't want your jewels. And you think, oh, she's going to say, I just want your love. And she's like, I just want to suck your cock.
That's what I love about that. It's so good.
I love that she just wants to suck his cock, wants to have her legs beaten with a bamboo pole. And I also love his response to that. Like he does indulge her fetish. Both times we see them together in the early part of the film, he's beating her legs. He screws up and hits her in the face at one point. But once he understands that, he's like, okay. And then even like offers up his knee to be hit and everything. But the whole thing of her just wanting to suck his cock, and he's just like, well, can we just go out for dinner? Like, it's not that, Peter Venkman, when Dana's coming on to me, he's like, oh, all right. Well, no, I shouldn't, like, because Venkman wants to hit that, even though Dana's not in her right mind. But Gord is very just like, oh, no, I actually want to go out on a date with you. Like, we've had 2 dates, neither one of our dates, because both times you end up sucking my cock. And it's like, he actually wants to take her to a fancy restaurant. Sir, this is a fancy restaurant.
And that's what I also liked about it was that's the thing he's uncomfortable about. It's just like that she has this agency. And at first he's kind of like, I don't know how to deal with that. Aren't we supposed to go to dinner and hold hands and
be romantic? Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
He's just a good Portland boy. Wants to, with a Canadian name, he wants to hold hands. Yeah. Doesn't want all that cocksucking all the time. Even though she's voracious, and she doesn't even question too much him having a umbilical cord duct taped to his stomach.
I love that she like arches her eyebrow, and then after he explains it, she's like, "Oh, I can work around that." She's like such a trooper. She loves that fellatio. She is down for the crime, and yeah, the umbilical cord is gross. There are some gags in this film that actually hit me more gross and raw now that I think they did when I was younger. I don't know if that's just because of getting older or if it's just sobriety. It's probably that combination. And this one will only probably hit people funny if they've seen the movie, because describing it is not going to do it justice. But after he meets with the great, I loved Anthony Michael Hall in this film, by the way. He's another actor I always just love seeing, though. Anthony Michael Hall's great. And he gives actually really good advice. Like, that may be the most unrealistic thing in this film, actually. Is a successful entrepreneur in Hollywood giving helpful advice to somebody who's very green. But you're like, the drawings are good. The story sucks. You need to work on the story. You need to get inside these characters. You need to get inside these animals that you're drawing. And Tom Green seeing a dead deer, carcass of an old dead horned antlered animal, cuts it guts right in the middle of the street and wears it like a cape. And he's like, ooh, like that, make you. And then he gets hit by a semi. And then the guy checks on him. He's covered in like old roadkill blood. And he just starts laughing maniacally, going, Tom Green, when he gets super unhinged in the way he does that, he does it so well. It always makes me laugh. Like, he's just so good at committing to just the intensity. These intensities. It's when he's on, I don't know. It always tickles my funny bone.
Those notes that he gives him about the X-Ray Cat animation show feels like a meta commentary on the film itself. It feels exactly like you've got this idea, but it doesn't quite work and all this. So it's almost like he's explaining why the movie is the way it is to a certain extent. It's interesting. But I also thought when he puts the animal carcass on and does the dance, I was like, I never knew that this was inspiration for Midsummer.
If Rip Torn's like role in this film, if his performance inspired him being cast for Dodgeball, because Dodgeball's 3 years later, and I feel like there's a similar dynamic. Yeah.
Crusty old man kind of thing. Yeah. You can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
To your point, Mike, this was in that mid-period between like Larry Sanders and the first Men in Black, and then later on Men in Black 2, and then Dodgeball. Because I feel like Dodgeball really further amped up I won't call it a comeback because he'd been there for years, but definitely the more like newer generation awareness of Rip Torn. But yeah, oh God, Midsommar.
Talking about this movie being a parody of other quote unquote gross out comedies. I mean, obviously he's going to go farther than anybody ever has before, just because he's, one, making a point about stuff, and two, he's Tom Green. So like the whole thing with the roadkill, from what I understand, that's where the line in the Eminem song about humping a dead moose came from. And that was part of his show. It's amazing to hear him talk about, or to see some of these clips from his show and realize that so many of the things that he's doing in this movie are basically like riffs on the show, or references to things that were on the show, or even references just to things in real life. He talked about in the commentary about how he had a friend who would talk about business, and you buy the stocks when they're really low, and then you sell them when they're high, and you buy them low and then you sell them when they're high, and you're just doing that thing. And he also, I guess they did the whole thing with the phone with the tape recorder, and then yelling like, you pick up your fucking desk, you're fucking fired, like all that stuff. It's all like, I don't want to say recycling, but it's just like, okay, well, these are good bits and we're going to pull them all together in this film.
That was the thing also that I liked about the Tom Green documentary, was some of those scenes that are in that documentary, he doesn't connect them one-to-one that way. But after seeing, because I watched Freddy Got Fingered and then saw the documentary, watched it again, I was like, as you were saying, I'm like, oh, this is just him doing a fictionalized version of this instead of a man on the street version of this.
One of the flaws of this film, and this is time back to how the story aspects of the film are obviously very loose. That's fine. But there are parts that fall flat because in the film will do a little traditional film moment, but then there's like bits. And there's, to me, a disharmony with it that doesn't feel organically part of what he's doing. There are parts of it that do, and those are the parts that work really well. But then there are other parts that just don't. Yeah, it's like one of those things isn't like the other kind of thing. And that's why I was like, I almost wonder if this would have just worked better if take away a lot of that sheen and studio control and just make your own sheen and dilute, Tom. Just make it super DIY, but with the same cast. I think that'd be like an interesting flavor. It's still like, we still have some Hollywood elements, but then the rest of this is just like soup to nuts. But what was the thoughts?
The gross out bits, I was talking about how if this is a parody of other gross out comedies, he's going to amp up the gross out bits as much as he possibly can. So things like the dead deer, things like the birthing scene, which rewatching this again, I was like, yeah, I can kind of see why people thought this was objectionable, but I just found it very funny. I especially like the whole moment where he's got his shoes literally screwed to the floor so he can grab the baby, pull way back on the umbilical cord, and like you said, Rob, it's like a living cartoon that he's doing with this. And, and then he ends up saving that baby. Why is nobody applauding him for that? Come on.
That's right. You got a problem with heroes around here.
In my mind, I conflated the elephant jacking off with the horse jacking off. And he talks on the commentary about jacking off a horse. And I'm like, I don't know, can you consider it jacking off a horse if there's no completion? Because for me, it was just molesting a horse rather than jacking off a horse.
Yeah, get it right, Tom Green, you liar. He really just grabs the horse's willy and is, oh, I'm a farm guy. I'm working on a farm. Which I'm fine with. I don't want to see any animal. It was bad enough we saw what we did here.
Just the drippiness of the horse cock was really, I was just like, wow. And he talks about that a little bit on the commentary. He's just like, I don't know what that liquid is, or it might have been in the documentary where he's talking about the liquid. I think he's actually talking to our guest on this episode, the producer, one of the producers. So it's like, yeah, no, I don't know where that liquid comes from either. No, that is in the commentary where he's like, my cock doesn't have liquid on it. And I was like, well, you do have pre-cum. So I think that might be the horse's pre-cum, just kind of getting it ready kind of thing.
And the next, we're going to decide exactly when is the moment that a premature ejaculation becomes a mature ejaculation. What are we talking about here? This is what we call foreshadowing.
It's Chekhov's gun.
He needed to pay off. He had to pay off. It's Chekhov's gun. Literally. There you go.
Well, and again, it's the miracle of life, which we have with the baby scene. We also have the breeding, and it really all speaks to the whole power of fathers and sons, which is through this. And especially when it comes to the whole idea of Freddy getting fingered, it's very capturing the Friedmans in that way. In fact, I think that this is more heartfelt than capturing the Friedmans myself.
Can't follow that up, Mike. I will say, I like that Tom Green had seen Borovchik's Labette and was inspired by the opening sequence in that film. That film is a masterpiece. But the horn, I can't believe he got away with an R rating I know there's like different cuts, but he got away with a lot. And this, and I'm just like, but the MPAA, it's, we don't want cunnilingus, but we're fine with a real horse penis being hoisted up by a hand going like that. But no cunnilingus and no human male genitals. A giant horse penis is perfectly fine, but no, don't you be getting that little human adult willy in that picture now.
I think part of it has to do with tone. It is so ridiculous. You just can't take it serious. You can't take anything really serious in here. And I agree with you on that it's to its detriment as a standard narrative that you can't really take things serious. So it does have this kind of back and forth where you're like, you could get into the narrative and then something pulls you out. So that's why I don't think it works as a straight ahead film. It's almost like an art piece. like we were talking, I go, this is a Chien Andalou. This is some sort of performance art piece more than it is a standard narrative film.
Yeah, Tom Green as Karen Fiddler. The only thing missing is the can of yams. Yeah, that's great. That's a great way to approach it. Also, a side note with the cartoon elements, did you guys feel like there was any sort of John Kay from Ren and Stimpy sort of satire going on? Because when we see the cartoon come to action, which is, by the way, the look at my hooves part is one of my favorite things, not just in this film, in life. If I'm having a bad day, I get to see our girl going, you've got feet, but that hoo is hilarious. But his whole like zebra people cartoon, like the violence in that and the father character, it felt to me so much like John Kay, because John Kay always had those jocular, strong chin, aggro 50s male father archetypes, and everything is just, even things that are pretty are really close up, really gnarly and nasty, and there's like weird hairs and all of that. I felt like it was very much like a John Kay kind of satire.
Yeah, I could see Ren and Stimpy. Yeah.
Well, yeah, when he pulls him down the street and his teeth are grinding along, and you think of when Ren had that bad tooth, and you get to see that close up of the mouth where it's just like the little stink lines coming off of things, and just, yeah, how awful his mouth was. Yeah, I can definitely see that. I think the animator was involved with Beavis and Butthead, but it didn't look like Beavis and Butthead, did not have that same animation style, which I always appreciated. And I haven't watched the new Beavis and Butthead because apparently that's a thing, but I always appreciated just how shitty the animation looked, like kind of on purpose, I mean, like just the faces and everything just were not right, like, yeah, Beavis had Butthead had a really weak chin, but like that chin, I mean, I'm sure we've all seen, this is what Beavis and Butthead would look like in real life, and that nightmare fuel kind of like, this is what Popeye would look like in real life, or here's what Homer Simpson would look like in real life, and you're just like, holy shit. Both of them, but especially Ren and Stimpy, were great with gross out kind of stuff. And just, yeah, those close-ups, or I would love when they would do close-ups and then you'd hear the foghorn.
At least Beavis and Butthead, I can still enjoy because Mike Judge isn't a creeper. But yeah, thanks, John Kay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that John Kay documentary will turn your stomach.
I haven't even seen the documentary. I read was it Esquire? I read the article, and that was heartbreaking on so many levels, and especially as I'm the age that those girls were. Like, because I got into that show as a little kid, actually, and I was like, nothing. Yeah, I hate when people are like, "Oh, this ruined my childhood." Your childhood is still there. Your childhood's fine. It's the past. It is the past. I say it feels tainted now. Yeah, it does. Thank God for Billy West. Love Billy West. As far as I know, Billy West hasn't done anything untoward.
I did see Freddy Got Fingered compared a lot to Dirty Work, which we just watched for the Chevy Chase podcast, because I think Chevy Chase is in it for like 2 seconds or something. Actually, I think he works on who's the greatest insult comic of all, Don Rickles. I think he's Don Rickles' doctor. It didn't connect with Dirty Work at all. And I think that's one of those nostalgia things where if you grew up with it, you're probably still a big fan, but I didn't grow up with it. And I was like, yeah. I do like Norm Macdonald a lot. And he also has a lot of anti-comedy. I just saw him telling a joke today where, he talked with his doctor and his doctor said, if you don't quit eating like this, you're going to have a heart attack or a stroke. And the person said, well, I thought you were setting up for a joke. He goes, no, my doctor's not a comedian. I am.
Oh my God, I miss that man so much. And the best thing, the Bob Saget roast, Norm Macdonald, I know this is an aside, but it must be spoken. When one of the other comedians tries to best him and be like, well, listening to Norm Macdonald do comedies like watching Henry Fonda pick blueberries. And Norm Macdonald just without missing, I can't think of anything more that this audience would love to see than Henry Fonda pick blueberries.
Bob, you have a lot of well-wishers here tonight, and a lot of them would like to throw you down one. A well. They want to murder you in a well. Seems a little harsh, but apparently they want to murder you in a well. It says here on this card.
That man's a gem. That man is an absolute. I miss him so much. Also, I'm ashamed when he said the greatest insult comic of all time. My brain said Triumph.
He's up there. He's definitely up there. Getting back to Betty real quick, the other thing that we should not forget is that she's the one that actually influences and inspires Gord to fulfill his dream, because she fulfills her dream of having that rocket-powered wheelchair. And she gets on the news and everything. She's the one that really inspires him while he has his freak out serving more cheese sandwiches. And honestly, when I watched Laugh Out Loud or Last One Laughing, I had no memory of this whole cheese sandwich theme. And apparently that was also a theme on the show. And people would, he would always bring up cheese sandwiches. So I love that scene when he's working at the second cheese sandwich place, the actual like Subway shop, and just piling on all the cheese onto that guy's sandwich. That really worked for me. There are a lot of moments in this movie that do work quite a bit for me. I mean, the sausage song is fantastic. It's interesting too that he doesn't seem to care about pacing. You would think that Gord coming back to Oregon would be the end of Act 1, but it happens 15 minutes into this movie. So it's so quick. He just goes down, sees the horse, keeps going, and I know we'll talk about deleted scenes, and there were a lot of deleted scenes in that opening sequence, even to the point of towards the end of the movie, having the person holding the sign saying, when is this fucking movie going to end? It's we are definitely way past where the third act should have ended.
As you were saying, she becomes the inspiration for him to complete his mission. Is his reaction when it doesn't work, that he's, don't you feel like a dummy? And she's, no, because how can I expect to get it on the first time? And so I really love that interplay of attitudes where it's, no, it has to be easy and simple. Otherwise, I'm just going to collapse and I'm not going to be able to do anything. Or it's, no, I'll just keep iterating until I get it. And so I love how they represent two different ideas of the creative end in that way. Because I dealt with people on both sides who are like, oh, I'm just fucking terrible. I got rejected by all these agents. Nobody wants to hire me. And it's, oh, I'm done. And it's really, because it is the tenacity of the cockroaches that run the joint, and is to have to say.
He actually has two different people give him actually really sound advice, and not sound in Hollywood movie advice. Keep doing it. You have to keep testing it. And even Anthony Michael Halls were yeah, actually your art's good. Just there's no story. It's animation. We have to tell a story. You got to work on the story. And it's okay. Gord's got some good people in his life. I don't know whether or not he deserves them. He literally falsely accuses his father of molesting his adult aged brother, who is then he's put in a home with it's not funny, but it's funny. Grown ass Freddy's like with these kids watching like medical footage or
watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, you're right.
No, it was the medical footage that he was watching when they came to take him away. He was watching Tom Green's actual operation footage, and you had Tom Green's actual like high school photo next to the television. Yeah. And really thinking about it, because Green, the thing about that documentary that really shines through is just his real life tenacity. Like, he is the opposite of Gord when it comes to this. Like, he, it's like John Pace's Crime Wave. He came from the North and he had a dream. He has this dream of, I want to have my television show, and everything he did in his entire life was to get this dream fulfilled. He took a lot of video classes when he's in high school. He's, started to work on public access. He started his public access show. It got so popular that he moved from, one network to like, I think it was Much Music or something in Canada. And then he gets to go to New York and make his pitch. It gets picked up. He has his own talk show now on like MTV. And it's just amazing to see how hard he worked to do that and to perfect these things, and how he would keep what worked and then worked on what didn't work. And, the things like his co-host or the guy who sat behind him in the window and would laugh at things, like those worked for him. So he just keeps doing it. He could have dumped those guys that he grew up with and been like, no, give me like an Andy Richter or something. But no, stays loyal to his friends. And that was the really nice thing too about that documentary, was here's all of his friends from fucking high school are still friends with him.
That tells you everything. And Glenn, I can't even imagine him not having Glenn. I can't remember Glenn's last name, but Glenn's like his co-host on the show. And Glenn's always kind of like the straight guy to Tom's shenanigans. And poor Glenn, there was this whole thing where Tom kept trying to get Glenn to like sensually kiss his, and he kept trying to set up the mood. I love that. And also public access represent, as somebody who I learned all my core video skills at a public access station. I worked at a public access station, and people don't give public access enough credit. And that's the thing. That's what it's there for people to learn these skills, to get their art out there. That's a beautiful thing. And I love that Tom Green used that, especially because most people don't have, as cheaper as the technology gets, if you're working class, that technology isn't that cheap. It's not, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you can't just be like, oh yeah, let me go spend several $100 on a camera and then more on an editor and stuff like that. So he just used everything that he could. He's a great working class hero. And you know what? Even if somebody hates this film, I don't think you can say he sold out. Selling out would have probably been in his financial favor at this point, because he was white hot from all that MTV and all doing, what was that movie? Road Trip, which I know I saw. I can't remember a thing of it other than Tom Green being in it. I don't remember the movie. I know for a fact I watched it. It was so much, I don't know if it was just like a nothing burger of a comedy where it just nothing suck.
It's funny. I don't remember anything except for him putting the mice in his mouth. And I really remember another Trip movie way better, which is Euro Trip. I thought that was great. But yeah, I don't remember Road Trip at all either.
I love the scene where he's with the construction foreman, where they're like going to do stuff at the house. And they gave me $1 million and I did this and I did this. Again, it's this meta commentary on the fact that they gave me this money to make something. They don't know what they're doing.
And I spent it on stupid shit. Like $700,000 for a fucking helicopter rental.
It's just hilarious to me because it almost feels like a commentary on the actual movie again that you're watching, because he's almost like amazed that they gave him the money. Much the way that I'm sure Tom Green's, I'm amazed they gave me this money to do this.
That scene with Anthony Michael Hall, we always talk about the end of Bad Lieutenant Port of Call in New Orleans, where it's just like this good thing happens and this one. And after a while, you're just like, this is way too much. This is obviously satire. And him there with Anthony Michael Hall, he's like, I don't know, $1 million. He's like, oh, sure, yeah. And like writes him a check for $1 million. And he gets to go to the old gray bank where not only I imagine Freddie works there, but also the Harlan Williams character works there as well. And he's just like, yeah, here's my $1 million check, like cash this check for me. And I'm like, you can't just cash $1 million check, Gord. It's a whole other thing, no matter how much you hump on Asian customers.
Stop humping Mr. Lee. Oh, I know. And Anthony Michael Hall sells it so well. I'm wondering, because I saw a little clip online of Green. I guess Howie Mandel has of course, Howie Mandel is a podcast. And Tom Green was on it. A little clip I saw was Howie Mandel, still being, sore because he auditioned for a part in this movie, and he obviously didn't get it. But in the clip I saw, they didn't say which character, and I'm thinking it had to have been the Anthony Michael Hall, because Mandel's too young for the dad, but he's a little bit older than Tom Green, so him being Harlan Williams wouldn't make sense. He's definitely not going to be Freddy.
No, it seems like that would have worked. Well, I mean, there's a few roles that we'll talk about after the jump that are completely on the cutting room floor. Could have been one of those, but yeah, no, I don't. I think him as the radioactive president probably would have made a lot of sense.
He's fine. Howie Mandel's fine. He needs to get over it. Anthony Michael Hall's great, and I love him in this. We get the Drew Barrymore cameo. That was a little. I don't know if it's because we know what we know now. That felt a little. Okay, Tom. But I don't know. Heck, if I was him and engaged to Drew Barrymore, I probably would have done the same thing. But
that scene with Drew Barrymore where he comes in and he's like, I'm looking for the person that he's got a thing. Statute of limitations has run out. But I'll admit that I've done things like that as a journalist where I was trying to track someone down. I'd be like, I'm looking for the guy. Who's the guy? And you just kind of walk through. If you act like you belong there, people won't stop you. You could just walk. You just walk right into the scene.
You just point at the floor and go Japanese or whatever he does to the poor security guard.
I used to have to do that for my job. So I was like, right on. I've been there. I understand.
Wait, were you dressed like an old-timey British Bobby?
No, sadly, no.
Also, I would be so remiss if I didn't bring this up with you guys. The soundtrack in this film, that was the thing. I remember the first time I watched this when I heard Problems by the Pistols come on immediately, and I was like, oh, hell yes. Now we're talking. This ain't no Crazy Town, or they would have played in this era. I mean, there were a few.
Oh, and the Ramones.
Yeah, you have the Ramones, the Dead Kennedys, Agent Orange. Yeah, we got Agent Orange. There were a few choices. I was like, oh God, of course we're getting. But as a whole, the soundtrack's really good. We get the New York Dolls.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about a song that he tried to get for that song, that section with the New York Dolls, but we'll save that one for after the jump. The one thing that he said in the commentary that I really liked was there's a moment, I think, where Harlan Williams says, you can't do that or something. He tells Gord that everything is over, or it's done. And then Green was going to roll the credits at that moment and then just stop the credits and be like, no, it's not over. Nothing is over kind of thing. Nothing is over till we say it is. And I almost wish he would have played with the form a little more, because he's already doing this kind of anti-comedy thing and making fun of these other movies. But I feel like he could have gone even farther with some of this.
I think part of the reason why it works is that he's referencing a concept, but not an idea itself. And what I mean by that is that this isn't the Scary Movie franchise where it's, oh, that's a reference to this movie and this person's dressed up like that. It's more of a tone concept of the gross out films and the Farrelly movies and all that stuff. And he's just taking the piss out of it by just jacking it up through the fucking ceiling. And speaking of jacking things up through the fucking ceiling, the whole house thing. So this is where a little bit of classic old school comedy comes in with his Buster Keaton reference.
Yeah, what an amazing visual of the house on that it's not a stilt. I mean, it's one. It's a monopod, you know, just balanced on there as he's tearing ass through cobble. You know, definitely not. It was looked like just a big ditch that they dug and put a bunch of people in burkas.
Oh, please. You know, Bronson Canyon was just like 20 feet away from it. Yeah, it was, but oh gosh. Yeah, that. And you're right. That is like such a like, okay, now we have a bit of Buster Keaton there, a little bit of maybe like Hope and Crosby.
Yeah, it's like a road movie. Yeah.
Yeah, a tiny bit there. But then there's like fake elephant semen.
I wonder if there was a different title because, okay, the title is the line that they like gets attention. But the thing is like his dad really like never really brings it up again after they have their kind of blowout. And you would think that calling someone a pedophile, an incestual pedophile, would just be like, all right, I'm done with you. Fuck you. I never want to talk to you again. And in the end, it's after he's got the show and they go on the Pakistan adventure, dad's proud. So the goal is met. So it's like never really brought up again. And it's like, oh, everything's fine. So I guess maybe that's just a joke on comedies that you could do like the worst shit to people. And as long as everything happens in the end that's happy, everything's fucking forgiven. Really?
Yeah. And even that poor little kid that walks into the propeller, you know, you do get to hear him go, I'm okay.
The ADR was amazing. It's Frozen Scream, which I don't know if you guys have seen this horror gem. I just recently saw it for the first time. The ADR in that is a wonder. Call it that. It's a wonder.
And there you have the father and son relationship too, because we keep seeing this kid just get inadvertently abused by his father.
That poor kid, like went at the diner and he's, can I have it? Can I just slice of cake, Daddy? Like that. It's your birthday, of course. And it's like this poor kid, and holy shit. Okay, the scene where Rip Torn does this like weird little Lord Fauntleroy accent at the dinner table about the roast.
Oh, boo-hoo, little Lord Fauntleroy's tummy hurts because there's too much roast beef in it.
This is boring. I'm eating a chicken sandwich.
No, you're not.
Holy shit, this is crazy. I'm a 28-year-old man. I should be able to eat a chicken sandwich if I want.
He's 28 years old and he can eat a chicken sandwich. Very impressive. Mike Fitzgibbon's son is a nuclear physicist, and my son can eat it! Get in!
No!
You can either eat that goddamn roast beef or you can go to bed.
Why can I not eat a chicken
28
sandwich?
years old. I'm 28 years old, Daddy.
Man.
I'm 28 years old.
It's the overpronunciation of endings that is the thing that I like. It's sandwich.
Yes.
Yes.
With my belly full of hoops. Again, so I cannot imagine anybody in this role other than Rip Torn. He's so perfect. It's like it was written for him. It really feels like that. That's why I was floored. Did they do this to Jeffrey Jones and Gene Wilder? Is that true?
I don't know. It doesn't seem like it could be possible.
Well, thank God they didn't put Jeffrey Jones in it. But yeah, I mean, like, it's bizarre. Just the list of people. And I'm like, this was written, even if it wasn't intentionally written for Rip Torn, there was some cosmic lattice work going on where it's Rip Torn's role. Like, he's going to do this and he's going to own it.
I can't even think of who could play this role. The only other way that you could go is I'm thinking of when Herzog was in the Harmony Korine movies. Like, that would be the only other way. It would be like, you need someone like that who can. There
is one person who, ironically, I almost don't want to mention because I know he's in the deleted scenes. So I almost wonder if I should save this. But if we're bringing it now, I will say, if anybody has seen Joe Flaherty's Kirk Douglas impersonation.
Kirk, what on earth would you do with a child like this?
I'll tell you what I'd do. I'd take her and put her across my knee. Then I'd give her a good, long, hard spanking right across the derriere.
I'm a massive Joe Flaherty fan, but I'll save that for the deleted part. But I will say Joe Flaherty on Kirk Douglas energy could have come close. I really do think that.
Yeah, because he's kind of doing that a little bit in One Crazy Summer, if memory serves.
Oh my God, I love that movie.
I'd like to call him my friend, but I would be a liar.
Because Flaherty really could do that, just like, he had dad energy already, and he could do that just really hyper, funny, angry voice. Odenkirk would have been too young at this juncture. Bob Odenkirk could do that now.
Let's go ahead and we're going to take a break, and we'll be back with an interview with producer Lauren Lloyd right after these brief messages. Looking for something superior to streaming? A place with more than 5 times the selection available on all of the other streaming services combined? Check out Scarecrow Video's Rent by Mail service. Select from an unparalleled collection of over 150,000 films and get Blu-rays, 4Ks, and DVDs delivered directly to your door. Get in on it now at scarecrow.com and rediscover the wonders of physical media.
Before we start talking about Freddy Got Fingered, I'm so curious, how did you get your start in the business? Because I know that you were a casting director for a while. And then did you do acting as well?
No, I went to Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh after high school. And I really always wanted to be an actress. I thought, hey, my big face should be up there. And then when I was applying to audition there, I thought everyone, all women actually, are going to be auditioning to be actresses. So I'm going to say I want to be a director. And somehow I'll trick them and they'll let me in. And I did. I got in as a director. So then I started seeing another side of things, not just acting. And after graduation, I moved to Massachusetts, and I worked with the American division of the Royal Shakespeare Company, and I did some directing there. And then I came to Hollywood. And I, try to figure it all out. It's like there's no rules there. So I just thought casting seemed like a good way in, and then I figured it out from there. I mean, my first movie was Mermaids, and it was my sister who sent me the book. And I went to a casting associate of mine, Wally Nacita, at the time, because she knew everybody famous. And I thought, oh, I'll find a writer and she'll find a star and we'll make movies. And then we did. It worked out good. So that's how. Honestly, my very first job was selling cars out in L.A. I had no idea what was what. I just moved out and was like, hello. And I didn't have a car. So I thought, oh, you know what? I'm going to get a job selling cars, nice ones. And I'll sell them to famous Hollywood people. And they'll like me and give me a job. And it almost worked like that. But I walked down to a place called Room and BMW. And I said, I'm here to sell cars. And they were just like, it's the early 80s. Women don't sell cars. And I never thought about that. Anyway, I persevered, got a gig there, sold a car to an agent who said, oh, come work for me. And off we went.
It was the 80s and then into the 90s. Did you run into a lot of sexism in your different positions?
Oh, always. It was, always. Do you know what was weird is that, or maybe not weird? Well, it was just so sexist from the very, very beginning, because when Wally Nacita and I started producing, this is before I became a studio executive, then went off with another production company to make Freddy. There was only like Deborah Hill, and there was only one other producer's team. And so people could not figure it out. I remember when we started finding writers and, selling scripts and stuff, it was Mike Ovitz at CAA called Wally and I in and said, who are you guys? How are you doing things without these scripts coming over my transom? He used that word, and I thought, that's a curious word. It was interesting. So when that Me Too movement started, it was so shocking as a woman, I think, to be in Hollywood at that time and see, we know all this stuff. You know what I mean? The sexism or what's going on, or the power curve, or we just know what goes on. We know we're not a part of it. We know that there's another group. But when it came forth, it was like the inner structure of Hollywood kind of fell apart. It was shocking, actually. It was shocking to a lot of women. We were just like, okay, wait, now they can see what's going on? This is really a wild time. Yeah, so there's that.
You worked on a huge variety of films over the years, and I'm so curious, what were some of the favorite ones that you worked on?
Oh, I liked the very first one, Mermaids. I loved that, because it was our first foray into making a movie, and, we discovered Christina Ricci. It was just a blast, and working with Cher was really remarkable. And it was Wally and I leading the way in a creative way, and we didn't have any judgment about what we were doing, so we felt very free to just, go with a vision. I mean, it was difficult because we went through a lot of directors and a couple of stars, but, we found our way. Anyway, I loved that. I loved doing Unstrung Heroes with Diane Keaton. She was really amazing, just really unbelievably clever and creative, and she was just great. I mean, she really made it was a Valentine to mothers, I think, the Unstrung Heroes. What else? I loved working with Demi Moore. I did 3 movies with her. I had just a blast in my life. Anyway, Freddy Got Fingered was a real unusual turn of events. I was a studio exec at Hollywood Pictures, and I believe that, well, first of all, Tom Green was the rage in the 1990s. I mean, he was just the shock and gross out king of MTV, and all the studios at that time really wanted to harness like the audience of MTV in a more significant way. So he was like the ironic punk grossing everybody out. I remember him as like the dude who had a microphone and dog poop at the end of it, interviewing people, and I thought, this is disgusting and yet very intriguing. So anyway, it was developed there, went into Turnaround from Disney. I think it was Joe Roth who developed it. And it came by the way of Joe's good friend Larry Bresner at MBST. And Larry has since passed away, but he was the guy who said, what do you think of Tom Green? And we were excited. Everybody wanted this project, by the way. We were excited that we had the ability to get it because he was such a huge star, and he was we never met anyone like him. And he was such a creative force and such a frightening guy, I have to say, in a way that he basically made everyone feel super uncomfortable. So it was a real interesting balance of knowing that this is a really creative guy, feeling uncomfortable, wanting to, as a producer, facilitate and support his vision, which was very difficult.
What was so difficult about it?
Well, he kept going further and further and further. I mean, his idea was that I just want to see how far I can go. Because it was like Tom Green's greatest hits. How bizarre can I be? How wild can I be? It wasn't like political, it was just his stuff, his weird, gross out, disgusting stuff. Watching it again now, I look back and think, what? Quite frankly, I think, how in the world did this come into being? How did Fox give us the money? I remember when we were working on, there were 2 issues that we were working with. One was, okay, we have this crazy script that was not quite developed yet. We worked on developing it, but these crazy string of events. And we thought, well, who's going to direct this? So we met with a lot of directors. There was a lot of interest, but Tom always really knew visually what he wanted to do. And so you have to respect that. You have to say, okay, he sees it like this. The point of view is like this. The actors are going to be like that. And so he ended up directing it. Larry and I decided that we were just going to give him the reins and see if we can control it at all. But it's interesting because I thought, this is a very, very low budget movie. I mean, if we get a couple of $1 million, let's go be wild and see what happens. And we got a lot of dough. I was stunned. I was just like, we're not going to Pakistan. I mean, what? So anyway, it was figuring out how to support his creative vision, be the go-between between him and Fox, and keeping reins on creatively what he wanted to do. It was very busy.
Was he always on?
Mostly. There was also, mostly, and that was his shtick. He was his shtick. The whole point of me was trying to figure out what wasn't that. What was interesting is that we used to run lines all the time. And there were moments there that I could see who he was. And he also was with Drew Barrymore. And I thought that was a wild experience. Like, okay, Drew is, very grounded and has her roots in Hollywood for generations. And Tom Green, this kind of irascible Canadian, he was real around her. And his best friends were working with him, Sean and Derek Harvey, and he really trusted them. And they were in the movie and they were co-writing and they were really supportive of him.
Yeah, you said you were kind of going back and forth between the production and Fox. I mean, was there any concerns by Fox, or are they just like, this is the biggest thing since sliced bread, go, go, go?
Well, it was also Regency who was the financier. I don't really know what their deal was with Fox, but it was Arnon Milchan who ran Regency, and he was very intrigued with the heat of this young comic. We all were. We were all under the Tom Green spell. Okay, it was also a bunch of, let's say, older people who didn't quite understand the MTV, what this gross out humor was, and we didn't want to step on his toes. And you could see we didn't.
I seem to remember there was a behind the scenes documentary that's on the DVD, and there's at least one clip with you in it where it's the finer points of dealing with a wrecked horse.
Oh my God.
How on earth did you make it through this situation?
I have to say that there were a lot of other crazy personal things going on in my life, which include rescuing Anne Heche from, institution and anyway, in California. I was managing her. So I left that, I think it was the day after. I was mostly, I don't want to say in shock. How did I get through it? I just got through it. I was there in my trailer. I didn't go out and witness physical attributes. But it was just another crazy day on the set with Tom Green.
What were some of your either more shocking or favorite memories from the shoot?
There were some really sweet moments with Tom and Julie Hagerty talking about why do you let him do this, and kind of the anger that Tom felt about his father. He would talk about that sometimes, and that would come out. There was also a lot of stuff that was cut from the cheese factory and the cheese dipping and the Native American stuff. There was a lot of really touching, but also bizarre stuff that was cut. But I liked being up in Canada. I loved the group of actors that we assembled. We got some good actors there.
Yeah. That's amazing.
I know.
I know that other names were thrown around before Rip Torn came in, but I can't see anybody else playing that role.
He was so bombastic, I agree, because he could be so bizarre and menacing, and there he was perfect. He was the perfect opposition to Tom. Absurd.
Yeah, I did my best going through all of the trailers, the behind the scenes, all of these things, trying to put together what this movie was at some point, because you mentioned more at the cheese factory. Yeah, there's a shot right at the end, like in the outtakes at the end, where it's two people rising up out of a vat of cheese, and I don't know what the circumstances are around that at all.
I think that was Stephen Tobolowsky. I think he might have been cut from the whole movie, because it was really weirdly a coming-of-age story, if you can imagine, about a kid who wanted to peddle his animated goods in Hollywood. Absurdly so. I'm trying to remember. This is, how many years ago did we do this? 25? It's a long time ago. I didn't go back and see. I don't even remember seeing the outtakes or the interviews from the original release of the DVD or Blu-ray, whatever.
Well, I was curious, what was the premiere like?
Boy, I don't even remember the premiere. How could that be? I don't remember it. Maybe I missed it. Sorry, I don't remember.
I personally like this movie, and I see a lot of merit in it, but I know that at the time it was so lambasted and very
wealthy, right?
Won a ton of Razzies, from what I understand. Yeah,
you did a good job. Yeah,
you did. Yeah, you swept.
Did we?
Yeah. And then Tom actually went to the ceremony and played a harmonica solo that was so long that they had to drag him off of the stage.
That is so like him.
When did you know that this was being considered as such a bomb, and did that have any adverse effects for you?
No, it didn't. Every time you make a movie and it's released, you're back at ground zero. So no, this was more difficult than making any other movie. I always stood by the movie. I always thought that it's original. It's unforgettable. We are going the distance. We are representing an artist's point of view. And I believe in that. I watched it again and I was like, what? Again, I was thinking that. But yeah, I remember talking to an executive from Hollywood Pictures who I believe was, or I think it was Touchstone, who was the person who had developed it, and they didn't know what to do with it, and they gave it back, and the trailer started coming out. And I can't remember who we opened it up against, but they were saying, like, what do you think? I said, we're going to do great, because I just believe it. And he was just like, what, really? And I said, great. I said, it's funny and bizarre, and then when the reviews started coming back, I thought, oh, they're not seeing it, or I didn't see it, but but I felt like I did my job, and that's really what it's about. Some of the comments, there was one comment, if I remember that, first of all, they were across the board horrible. And so I thought, well, we did something right, but we didn't do also something right. That there was a comparison to like original Monty Python and the kind of the absurdist humor there. But now I hear it's a cult classic. It's like a postmodernist masterpiece. Like, Tom is secretly a genius. I have no idea.
I read a few college dissertations about it.
Oh, did you? Did you?
A couple of people at least have used this as their thesis.
Really? And why is that? Because why?
I think it's the absurdism. They come at it from either neo-surrealism or just kind of like existential crisis, especially with all the stuff around his father.
That's really what grabbed me, too. I can't believe it. Yeah, it was just a crazy time. I remember Harlan Williams. He was fun, and I also remember how dazzling it was, how well Tom Green could skateboard and how dazzling that whole culture was.
I love Harlan Williams. I thought Anthony Michael Hall knocked it out of the park. I felt like a lot of that was very ad-libbed watching it, and it felt like he was just going along with Green 100%.
Yeah, he was a powerful force. I don't really know what happened with Tom. I know that he went on to do Road Trip, and I know he was very interested in like the Brian Grazier's and certain producers, but I don't really know. I think he got a podcast again or a YouTube, something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he's podcasting from a place up in Canada. He moved back up to close to Ottawa, close to his hometown.
Oh, I got to check that out.
How about you? What are you working on these days?
I am working on something that I think is spectacular. And I thought I was retired, but apparently I'm not. I have another home that's down here in Florida, in Sarasota. There's a tiny fishing village called Cortez. And my home is like right across the water from there. And during the 1970s, there was more marijuana smuggled through that tiny town than anywhere else in America. And it was all done by 16-year-olds. And the DEA and the ATF was founded or formed in relation to many smuggling acts, but mostly because of these boys. And they smuggled in so much weed. And the way they did it was they took a 23-foot boat, 4 of them down to Jamaica with a little bit of food and water and a Sears and Roebuck trash compactor. So if they found weed, they would compact it and put a lot on the boat. And they did. Anyway, so they were part of the Steinhatchee 7, which was the big, Walter Cronkite labeled them the Steinhatchee 7. It was the biggest drug bust in America. $4.5 million and 9 tons. And then, it was a wild adventure. But actually, on the last day of Clinton's presidency, he pardoned our last guy who got life in prison for growing weed. So anyway, that's what I'm working on. I got my writer-director, and we just put together a lookbook, and off we go.
Wow, that is great. I'm so glad that that's happening.
I got the life rights to the last remaining smuggler, and his name is Junior Guthrie. I mean, what a great name also. So he's 78. And those boys were just wild. I
love the whole crash compactor thing. That's fantastic.
So do I. And all of it was like that because they were fishermen. I mean, they worked their asses off and they were so poor. And, their fathers and their grandfathers all fished. And then there was a law passed that they can't fish the way they had been fishing. So it really broke the back of commercial fishing. The boys thought, well, what are we going to do? And they became multimillionaires. They had parties. They bought an island and they would have parties where Jimmy Buffett and the Allman Brothers would come. And Jimmy Buffett wrote this song, A Pirate Looks at 40. He co-wrote it, even though it's not talked about, by my lead smuggler, Mike, who was eventually killed by the cartel. But it's the wildest story ever, I believe. But yeah, Mike Knight, murdered by the cartel. And Mike White. I thought you were the Mike White I know from L.A., my White Lotus Mike White.
Oh, yeah. I get that a lot. I think it helps get me interviews sometimes. But
very nice. Okay, well, I hope I told you stuff that was good and new. I don't know.
Absolutely did. I really appreciate this, and I appreciate your time.
My pleasure, and I'm thrilled to talk with you. Thank you.
All right, we are back and we were talking about Freddy Got Fingered, and another comedy trope that this movie does that we were seeing a lot in this era were outtakes during the credits. And that belies a lot of scenes that we obviously saw some references there, but then a lot of scenes we didn't see. And I found it pretty amazing that, I mean, Tom Green was doing the same thing that Parker and Stone were doing right around the same time, I think, where they were providing much longer cuts to the MPAA, knowing that a lot of stuff was going to get cut out. So they would basically have things where they're like, we are almost including this in the movie, knowing that it's going to get cut out so that we can sneak another joke in that won't get cut out. But it's really interesting to look at the deleted scenes and then kind of piecing things together via, there was a behind the scenes special that's on the DVD. There were previews, obviously, and you get to see these bits and trying to kind of reform what this movie was, because it sounds like he turned in a 2-hour version of the film. And what we get is 1 hour and 23 minutes.
No, it's a short, especially in this age where popcorn movies are almost 3 hours long. This film, I was like, God, it's not even 90. I don't even think it's quite 90 minutes. I think it's 87.
It's quick. I'm actually glad that it's not 2 hours, because I'm a firm believer of John Waters' maxim that all comedy should be 90 minutes or less, because one of the most painful things, and I love this guy. I went and saw Mark Maron when he was like testing stuff for a new special, and it was like a 2-hour stand-up set, and it was getting hard to sit there and try to laugh. It was like I was laughed out. So there's part of me that realized from that experience, while it was good, it wasn't, I was like, man, this is going on too long. So I'm glad that it got condensed. But there is a lot of stuff in here that feels choppy. But then again, I'm the guy who said you can't really watch this as a straight narrative. So what do I know?
Yeah, like the stuff at the farm, you get to see more of that, like him suckling milk right out of a teat of a cow, which again, I think was part of the show as well. I talked about how abbreviated the beginning of this movie was, and that's because when Gord moves from Oregon down to Hollywood, not California, but Hollywood, he is staying with his uncle. And his uncle is played by Stephen Tobolowsky. And there's like a whole subplot of stuff. And that was another thing on the DVD was deleted scenes. Unfortunately, Tom talks over the deleted scenes. You don't get them just with the natural audio and the ability to toggle on. As far as I know, maybe I just ripped it incorrectly, but I had him talking over those scenes. And that was interesting to see Tobolowsky. He's this gay uncle, and Uncle Neil, and he's there with this Native American gentleman. I think he's called Big Bear, and there's just a lot. We were talking about gay jokes. That's where the gay jokes were. That was all him, like, oh yeah. And it was basically treated very respectfully. It was just like, okay, Gord, you got to go now. Like, you can sleep in my room. I'm going to make love with this man right now. And he's the one who runs the cheese sandwich factory. So he is the one that got him his job. He's at the cheese factory in another scene, and Gord comes in. He's just like, oh, Gord, I'm so glad you can make it. It's noon. You really should have been here earlier. That's why you see all the people leaving from their job, because I think like the shift is over for them. It's pretty much just starting for him, and he's losing his mind. Also in the deleted scenes, you see two people coming up from a cheese vat. I'm not exactly sure where that plays into the narrative, but that was another thing going on at the cheese factory. He talks on the commentary that you actually saw. He shot the scene of him going to a costume shop and picking up the Bobby uniform. Again, we don't need that stuff for that. It can just go past that. But then you also see him coming back to the factory after Anthony Michael Hall gives him his advice, and he's super sad. And that's also where he quits his job at the cheese sandwich factory and decides he's going to go back to Portland. So that stuff. And also there's one more scene that ties into another deleted scene I'll talk about later, which is Uncle Neil calls Gord's dad and you see Rip Torn on a boat. He's got a boat and he's out on a lake, and that boat comes back in another deleted scene. So you just get a little bit of that. So by eliminating, well, they eliminated the boat and they eliminated Uncle Neil. So like that is a very clean subplot to have removed. And I don't feel like it's missing that much. There's a lot more with his cheese helmet, and I don't even know if you get I think you get the cheese helmet just in the deleted scene, but you see him like take off the cheese helmet when all the old ladies, the dour old ladies who were instructed to not smile at all when they're leaving their shift.
That explains why he didn't get fired for all of his standing up on the conveyor belt with the salami going, I'm a sexy boy. Look
ding
at
dong,
me. I'm like,
ding dong.
I'm like, yeah, HR would be on you faster than flies on a picnic today. Yeah.
We were robbed of Joe Flaherty. Don't get me wrong, I agree completely. This film did not need to be any longer than it is. It should be. More comedies need to be this short. John Waters is right. Joe Flaherty, I think, is one of our greatest unsung comedic actors. And it's weird to say unsung because he did so much great work and was always very much active until kind of towards the end. But I feel like he's always like really underrated. I think people took Joe Flaherty for granted, you know?
Out of the whole SCTV crew, he seems to be the one that didn't hit as well as the rest of them. Martin Short and John Candy. And then I'd say Eugene Levy really has been, in the past 10 years, has gotten his respect.
Well, yeah. I mean, really, again, since American Pie. And that just sent him into the stratosphere.
It seemed like most of them on SCTV, except for Flaherty, blew up. And I don't know really what held him back, or most of my friends who did not know SCTV, like I knew it as a kid growing up in Detroit, Channel 9, we got CBC in Detroit, so we would get the SCTV reruns. I always loved him as Count Floyd and, Guy Caballero and all the other characters that he had on there. Sammy Maudlin. But the thing was, it's like most of my friends only knew him as the guy who heckles Happy Gilmore.
You will not make this putt, you jackass!
Oh, weird. I didn't even know him because he was on Freaks and Geeks. One Crazy Summer, you mentioned that. He's even in Follow That Bird, the Big Bird movie. I got exposed to him. Do you guys remember there being a cartoon on, oh God, what is that character? I must say that Martin Short, why am I blanking on that? Thank you. There was an Ed Grimley cartoon for a hot minute in the 80s, and I loved it. I was probably the only kid watching it. They had live bits where Flaherty would come in as Count Floyd. And I just was like, oh my God, who is this amazing? And just from there, it's always been just great love. Yeah, him and Dave Thomas, I feel like both always steady work. Dave Thomas was on that Brett Butler show and got a lot of TV work. Flaherty got movies and TV. He's in Blue Monkey with Steve Railsback, which is a lot of fun.
I think between those two that you mentioned, and then probably Andrea Martin, she definitely shows up in things, Hedwig and the Angry Inch, My Big Fat Greek Wedding. I keep seeing a clip on Instagram from a TV show she did called Evil. But she was hilarious as well. And just kind of like, she's more behind the stuff, you don't see her as much, which is a little sad. I think for a whole generation of people, Joe Flaherty was just simply the Western Union guy that brings Marty the message at the end of Back to the Future.
I mean, it was always just that line, "Hey, Gilmore, you jackass."
Going back to that documentary again, I wasn't sure at first when I saw Flaherty on, I think it was by that time, it was the new Tom Green show, because they were playing like they hated each other, at least that Flaherty hated Green. And I was like, is this real or is this not real? It was so uncomfortable.
Those days must have been great.
Oh, yeah, they were great. They're just great, yes.
Must have been nuts for you all the time.
Oh, yeah, nuts.
Dave Thomas.
Yes.
Martin Short. Eugene Levy, of course, we're seeing all the time.
That's right. What is your point? Are you saying I'm not doing well?
What are you up to these days?
I'm in movies. Big movies.
Okay, tell us about...
All right.
Okay.
How about Speed? That was in the movie with Piano.
Piano. We didn't see you in that.
What?
Anywhere, and I don't want to call you a liar.
Wait, don't go there, Green.
This is my first, big show.
I was at Speed, okay? I was cut out of the movie. Yeah, well, you're calling me a liar. I don't think that's a good idea. You're not very experienced.
Well,
you're green.
It's so uncomfortable but fun to watch. You're like, oh God.
Because Joe Flaherty just seemed like in interviews like the nicest, just totally just amiable guy. I have one of the SCTV box sets, and some of the commentaries with him, and particularly there's one with him and Eugene Levy. And Joe, I can't remember what it is Joe says, but Joe totally makes some joke that's like slightly off color, and Eugene Levy gets uptight. And Flaherty just no selling the uptightness. He's just reveling in it. I just love him so much. And I love Tom Green, but I'm like, Tom, what the fuck did you do, man? What did you do to make Joe Flaherty mad? We love Joe.
Since he shows up in this, I imagine it was all a bit. Does he show up in the deleted scenes at the end? I know for sure he's on some of this documentary stuff, and he works with he works with Gord's dad. And again, this kind of like, how did they give him all this money? Because you see some of these deleted scenes. And so I mentioned the boat that we saw Gord's dad on earlier. Well, that boat comes back. When he hires the helicopter pilot, he takes his dad's boat, takes it to the construction site or the mill. That's what it is, where Flaherty and Rip Torn are working, and drops the boat into this massive like shredder, basically. So you get like, how much did that cost? I'm sure it wasn't a real boat, but it was like, how much did that cost to do that particular thing? And then you also get a little bit of the house for whatever reason that he brings to Pakistan, which I love, by the way, just that he chooses to take the house to Pakistan just because of his dad saying, you'd be sewing soccer balls in Pakistan. It's like such a nice, poetic, it's like poetry. It rhymes. You see the house explode. And I'm just like, you exploded a house, but yet you cut away from that. You cut from them running from him laying there with tapioca pudding all over him, aka elephant cum, and then Tom Green laying next to him. You cut from that to basically them running and then getting captured and stuff. And apparently there's a very brief bit where you see Tom Green with a gun and they're like playing this drinking game. I think there's going to be a real Deer Hunter recreation, which is funny because he does Deer Hunter in that, or was going to, and I think they chopped that down. And then he was also, we were talking about the music, he was also going to do a whole Apocalypse Now thing. You get to see that deleted scene of him as he's trying to come up with drawings, and it's the New York Dolls song playing. That was supposed to be the end by the Doors, but they were going to charge him like an insane amount of money. So he dropped the whole thing, but it was all shot of him. And you see the ceiling fan in the final film still, but that was him. And he stands up and he starts doing Kung Fu, and he bashes the mirror that's in front of him. And he, slices his hand open and all this. So there was a whole Apocalypse Now reference that was supposed to be in this. And then I think that plays into when you first see him in the helicopter, they play Ride of the Valkyries.
I'm just thinking about the fact that he would have picked up his dad's boat, because the whole point is like Rip Torn's character's like, he's finally out of the house. Thank fucking God. Like, it's just, he's got to get him out of the house. And so there's this battle of the wills between the two of them, and the idea that he would pick up the boat, which is probably would have been this prized thing. It's like, oh, my boat, especially coming from Michigan where we have so much boat culture. It would just be like, and then to destroy it like that is just one more fuck you to dad. Watching the Tom Green documentary, I get the feeling that him and his dad are pretty good with each other. But if you were to like give this to, I don't know, some Freudian analysis guy, they would be like, whoops, this guy's got some serious dad issues. He wants to kill his dad. And then the fact that he would put the end in there, obviously a Now reference, but with the reference in the end to Father, I want to kill you, and Mother, I want to,
It's been a minute since I last watched the Tom Green show proper, but I remember both parents seemed like really nice people, which made it even more just like awkward what he would house it for them, and they'd come back and he had somebody paint like two women making love on top of their like like sedan. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was the Slutmobile. They do the whole Slutmobile in the documentary. That was fucking hilarious. And yeah, I like Tom Green's dad has a cameo in this movie, but it's the animated version of him. He's the guy that refuses to give Zebra Jim a job. That's the caricature of his dad. That documentary is just like, did you think it was funny? He's like, I did think it was funny, but I couldn't admit it.
I have a partner right now. She can't handle like cruelty humor, which is what I feel like some of this is related to. And I don't know if that is this particularly Gen X thing. Is that just us? Is that like punk rock humor? Because I think like younger kids, like when I talk to people, they're like, oh, that's cruel or that's cringy, or there's these attitudes around what's funny. And I know like humor changes. It goes through. Nobody's laughing at Chaucer, even though Terry Jones tried to tell us that fucking Chaucer was hilarious. Nobody's laughing at him 500 years now. But humor changes. But I was just wondering, and you guys, do you feel that there's just something innate about, I don't know if cruelty is right, but there's a certain sense of taking the piss out of people or something that's in here that I don't know.
I never know with generational stuff because I have to admit, I don't really fully understand it. And I think a lot of it's marketing. I think we're marketing based and it really is like cultural. But I'm also like, I don't even know which generation I'm a part of because I'm like a cusp. I'm kind of like, I'm a millennial technically, but I'm just on the tail end of Gen X. I saw one say elderly millennial, which you can gladly suck my left one on that. Elderly, my ass. I will say this, I am not, and I've never been a fan. I'm sure there's exceptions. I'm not the biggest fan of like tension comedy with like misunderstandings or stuff like anytime I'd see a trailer for, say, was it Meet the Parents? The one with De Niro and Stiller? It made me cringe so hard. Like I can't, that kind of shit. Even when I was real little, I remember like anything with the Flintstones, because I feel like a lot of the Flintstones was like misunderstandings and it would just give me the hives. I could not deal with it. To me, that's a kind of cruelty that's very real life based. And I don't like it. It makes me deeply, deeply uncomfortable. I feel like this kind of stuff and what Tom Green does is so bananas that it's not real. There's no reality kind of base to this. So I don't think it was cruel, but I don't know. What do you guys?
The cum and Stifler's beer always hit me wrong, just like, that's crossing a line kind of thing. Honestly, one of my least favorite things in the entire world was Three's Company, just because every episode hinged upon a misunderstanding. And they were all misunderstandings that probably could have gotten explained away. And so much of it was just because of, was it just good rent? Why did he have to stay with Jan and Chrissy or whoever these women were? Was it just that?
Because it's wacky.
Okay. All right.
It's a 70s.
Oh, geez. The gay panic on that show was just so intense. Oh, God.
Oh, God. Also, what was Mr. Furley? Not Mr. Furley. Wait, which one was Norman Fell's character? Was he?
Roper. Mr. Roper.
Mr. Roper. What's Roper's problem with this beautiful wife? She was always wanting to get some beautiful woman, lovely caftans, and it's
like Al Bundy. I mean, Peg is gorgeous. What the hell?
Peg is a goddess.
Yes.
She is just don't eat her cooking, but she is a goddess. I love, yeah.
I just have that line that goes through my head, and I think I've used it a couple of times from Fish Called Wanda, where when Kevin Kline's Otto is torturing Michael Palin, he's asking him the philosophy questions. He goes, in which book did Nietzsche claim that all higher art is based on cruelty? So I just think about that line in which, I'm like, all Shakespeare is cruelty. A lot of great painting and art and it's cruelty. I'm like, we just seem to have this thing with cruelty. I don't necessarily consider this cruel because it's cartoonish. It's over the top. One thing I wanted to talk about in terms of like more recent Canadian man on the street humor that is morphed into a film and how they handle this versus something else. And I don't know if you're familiar with this Nirvana, the band, the show.
I've seen the poster and I don't know. I've downloaded the movie. I haven't watched it yet.
those guys are from Toronto, and the whole concept is they're like two guys who want to make it big. So it's got like this, as I explained the movie, it's like Bill and Ted meets Back to the Future. Like it has this kind of time travel piece, but they're like diluted, and they want to play at the Rivoli, which is where the Kids in the Hall started. They did shows at the Rivoli in Toronto. So anyway, their whole man on the street bit isn't so much like getting people to attack them or making them uncomfortable, which is what Green does. It's more like making themselves the butt of the joke. I'm deluded, and this person thinks, getting them to conspire with you to do something. And so I just found it interesting in terms of how not all sort of man on the street bits, which I think Green's humor also connects to something like, I really loved, I don't know if you guys ever saw Wonder Shows, and where they send the kids out and ask inappropriate questions of people. Like that's all about making people uncomfortable and getting their reaction to inappropriateness. And I felt that the guys who do Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie, was more about like how can I bring you into my world kind of thing, as opposed to this uncomfortableness in that way. So it was just interesting.
The whole beat kids segment, or the beat reporter, and it's like kids on the street, kids on the beat, beat kids. And there's like these little cartoon fizz with the title, beat kids, like that. Wonder Shows was great. Oh,
especially like they send them to Wall Street, and it's like, how many people did you exploit today? And it's like a little 8-year-old girl asking some Wall Street trader. He's like, a lot of people. Yeah, I did really well.
There's like a little redheaded boy. I was like, God, if I had ever spawned, this would have been my child. And he's in a little suit, and he goes up to a pig head, and he's like, how are you doing today, officer? I've never really thought in terms of, when I think of cruelty with art, I always tend to think more like Artaud than I do like comedy. But that's a really, no, I mean, there's utter cruelty in comedy. I always just think of cruelty in comedy as being like, yeah, I don't want to watch Meet the Fockers or whatever. I'm good. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see just, oh, it's wacky misunderstandings, and it's just hate it. And it's just seeing people it makes me deeply uncomfortable seeing people that uncomfortable. I don't think it's funny, but it's also, yeah, I'm having to see, like, why would I want to see De Niro do this? I'll just remember when he was in good movies.
If you want uncomfortableness and you want De Niro, it's King of Comedy. You know, that's where you can stop right there. Or maybe Midnight Run, you know. I mean, because God, Charles Grodin, I could see casting Grodin as Gord's dad would be an interesting choice. Obviously, totally different vibe coming to it, but just that disappointed, because Grodin could do disappointed so well. But yeah, to get back to Mr. Torn, I mean, just, yeah, the mania that he approaches this role with is just, and that's the only thing I really regret about not having more of these deleted scenes, is to have more of Rip Torn, because he steals the movie for me.
Lock, stock, and barrel. When he starts kicking at Harlan Williams' leg, it's like such a maniac. And oh my God. Rip Torn, and I love the beauty of Rip Torn, because he could be unhinged and be your heart's breaking unhinged. Like, God, like Coming Apart, which is such a brilliant movie. Like that movie. And he can do like these serious dramas. He could do Man Who Fell to Earth. And there's a great scene where he's yelling in that. He's naked. It's fantastic. But then he can do like these unhinged comedies. And which he became more known for in his later stage of his life.
Buck Naked, is that his character's name?
I was just thinking about how you say that, like, in a lot of movies, he has a tendency to yell. And I'm wondering if he was the archetype for John Goodman in the Coen Brothers movies.
Oh my God. How did they never use Rip Torn? Rip Torn was never, the Coens, come on. He would have been perfect.
I think we would be a little remiss to not talk about some of the reaction to this movie. First, I want to just start talking about the poster, because it's a very interesting. I mean, Heather, you were talking about the marketing and just how bad the trailer was for this. And there's a lot of trailers out there, but yes, they are pretty much all bad. This whole poster thing where it's just Green on the poster in front of, what would you say, like 100 little pictures all from this movie. And then you've got him front and center, and he's doing the whole like It's not really the framing thing with the hands, but it's as close as you're going to get from Tom Green. And that's the movie poster. It's not a scene from the movie. It's not a representation of Freddy getting fingered, which I was kind of disappointed about. It's just Green front and center and just making himself, obviously the studio knows what they're doing. They're just like, yeah, no, we're going to put this guy on here. All blame will go to him. But no, really, like he was the draw for so many people. And also, we're talking about, I pulled himself up by his bootstraps and everything. He fucking directed this movie. It's not like, he hired Tom Shadyac or some of these other guys to be like, yo, no, come on in and direct this. No, he directed this movie. And so then he puts this, unfortunately, this big fucking target on his head. And so many people went after this. I mean, Robbie mentioned I think it was Ebert and Roper by that time. I think Siskel, I don't know if he was passed away or if he just was sick at the time, but just like all these people just smelled blood in the water, and people piled onto this movie more than like Snow White, the musical remake live action version from last year, I think it was, or like any of these other disasters. This one, I mean, I kind of watched this because it was reported to be such a car crash, and I was frankly a little disappointed because I was like, it was actually kind of good, but it's not my style of humor, but it was nowhere near as bad as the people had reported, and just how disgusting this movie was. It's like, yeah, okay. Like I said, I don't really care to see a close up of a horse cock. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm uptight. Maybe I'm the wrong generation for that. Maybe a lot of people love horse cock on screen, but they went after this poor guy so hard, and he really didn't deserve it.
No. And that cover is atrocious. It looks like a Mountain Dew ad. It looks like it could be an ad for like an Xbox system. It doesn't look like a movie poster at all. What they should have done is, there's an artist named Kirk Damaris who does all these great, where it like paint, like old like 70s style paint, like family portraits, but it's like Jack and Wendy Torrance and doing the Golden Girls. Like he's such a cool artist. And if they did like a family style portrait of that with the family, do something irreverent, because this movie's irreverent. Like it should have been promoted like that, like what it really is. Now, this won a bunch of Razzies, and I read that Tom Green was the second filmmaker to show up in person. The first being Paul Verhoeven for show. I can't fuck the Razzies. Okay, why are Showgirls? This is a good movie. We've talked about it on the show, which is great.
Your famous line of
Yosemite Sam with titties. But she does act like that. In my defense, she completely acts like Yosemite Sam with titties, and like throwing up the French fries in the air. Girl, there are kids starving, and you're just like willy-nilly throwing taters, whatever. Versace. But Tom Green apparently, and I love him for this, apparently played a harmonic solo, and he wouldn't stop playing, and he had to pull him off stage. Like he did like some Mike Patton shit. Like this really is a Mike Patton, Andy Kaufman level antics, and I am so for it. Because stuff like that, this movie, Ebert saying the worst movie of this year. I highly doubt that this was the worst movie of 2001. It's not for everybody, but Jesus, if something's for everybody, then it's going to be something that nobody remembers, because it's going to be so bland and so neutered and diluted.
Yeah, the movie studio didn't know what the fuck to do with this, but people were talking about it, and it became pretty big on DVD once it came out.
That's right. And that's how it got the cult. I love that that's always sort of like, I think a thread with a lot of, especially newer cult movies, is this: nobody knew what to do with them originally, but they find this new life on physical media. And gosh, think about Shock Treatment. God, you would talk about terrible trailers. The US trailer for that film, horrible.
I'm going to go back and I'm going to pull up what the best picture was. And I'm going to ask you, would you rather watch that or would you rather watch this? You ready? A Beautiful Mind.
Ooh, good Lord. I cannot stand that movie.
This is why I hate stuff like the Oscars. I'm not a fan of that shit in general, because there's a certain type of film. There's especially where it's like, Oscar. It's just going to get an Oscar. Oh, the critics are going to love it. And it's not good. How many great, genuinely great movies and artists never get mentioned? And I know it's subjective, that's fair, but still. I once had a guy yell at me because I made this is serious, by the way, this is some comedy because it happened for real. A guy yelled at me because I made fun of the Starland vocal band that did Afternoon Delight. I was serious. And he said, he called me the elitist and said, they want a Grammy. And it's, who the fuck cares who won a Grammy? You know how many great artists haven't won a Grammy? Did Janis Joplin, when she was alive, win a Grammy? Has the band Hawkwind won a Grammy? Is Ornette Coleman Grammy? Fuck off. Come on. All of that is horseshit. The Grammys, Oscars, all of it. It's just people it's a circle jerk of ego and pretension. Beautiful Mind. And that's another movie. I remember it just made me think of like indigestion. It just really didn't do much for me. I'm just like mildly bloated. Like, except without the fun of eating horrible food. That is, yes, I had an enchilada. I should not have eaten that, but it tasted good. So I'm bloated. I didn't get that with A Beautiful Mind. I just got the bloating. And Russell Crowe's an actor who can do really great work. I've seen him in stuff where I really enjoyed him. That was not the flavor of the flavor. Maybe if they would be like, let's do a history film where we show this character from being the complete, like, fucking hot mess he is and give us some honesty and some truth. Do a Cassavetes, baby. Then we got art. Then we got action. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And Tom Green definitely didn't deserve. I think that's often the case with a lot of these films that get maligned as being like, oh, this is the worst. It's the worst film. Did American Beauty win a bunch of shit too?
Well, it was Oscar bait Fight Club because it's all about Russell Crowe and his imaginary friend.
And a lot of math. It's all I remember. All I remember is that image. It's like the meme of the lady looking around with the math around her. You know, like that's all I remember is just the math comes on the screen. But the point that I'm trying to make is I've seen that once. I have no desire to go out of my way to see that again. This movie I saw once on Criterion streaming. I told you, we should do this on the show. I have now watched it 3 times, and I will likely watch it again at least one more time before I'm probably in the ground. Congratulations, Tom Green. You have won.
I own a physical copy of Freddy Got Fingered, so it made enough of an impression on me to where it is part of the collection.
I mean, I read 2 college theses about Freddy Got Fingered. That was the reading for this because I didn't want to go out and just have bad review after bad review. I mean, of course, the A.O. Scott review is out there, which he seemed to really like this and did kind of predict like, hey, people are going to be talking about this in 25 years. And voila, here we are. I'm reading these college theses being like, yeah, this is an anti-comedy and like, take a look at this. And, and we're like defining, what a comedian comedy, which was a weird term for me, a comedian comedy is all about. And, tying it back like you did, Rob, to Buster Keaton and just like, how was Keaton and his movies and his whole sad sack persona versus Tom Green with, we've got that scene of him in slow motion as he's walking through the rain to go back into the cheese sandwich shop. It's like, just like his attempt at the super sad moment in the movie, like, okay, Betty's mad at him and his dad's mad at him and his brother's mad at him and he's gonna suck it up and go back into the cheese shop and just admit defeat, and it's like that's the worst thing is working at this cheese shop or cheese sandwich shop. It was pretty great. So I have grown to appreciate this movie more by talking about it, more by reading about it. And I still am not a big Tom Green fan. I don't think I'll seek out his work necessarily, but if he did help pave the way for things like Jackass and some of these other anti-comedy things that we've talked about, like Wonder Shows and like Tim and Eric, like who's the guy that you always see him shooting someone?
Andre, yeah.
God, I love Eric Andre. Yeah.
Yes. Like with all of those comedians, I mean, because I didn't tell my Jackass story, which was I never watched Jackass when it was on TV. But then when the first Jackass movie came out, my friend Dion was just like, you have to see this movie. It's fantastic. And we went to see it at a Dallas show. I couldn't stop laughing. It was so fucking funny. And I've seen all of the Jackass movies subsequent. Plus, when they bring out like the version 2.5 or 3.5 or any of those things, I'm right there watching it. I want to see more of this stuff. I want to see Steve-O snorting wasabi. I want to see Wee Man getting smacked by a giant hand. You know, these are great characters that these people are playing, or real life versions. I mean, I'm pulling for Johnny Knoxville every single time I see him on TV.
Same. God, you think about Knoxville. I loved him in Dirty Shame.
He was really good in the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I think who else was in that? But yeah, whatever that Arnold Schwarzenegger, The Last Stand, I think it was called. He's fantastic in that.
I love Jackass. I love all those guys. I'm even to the point though, where like when we actually saw 3D, we did a date night, which being in a room full of teenagers who somehow, teenage boys that conned their girlfriend, who apparently did not know, I don't know how, it's the third one at that point, where they, like the choir of, oh, it's amazing. It was wonderful. Also, I horrified a lady at Sephora. She was like, oh, you come on a date. That's wonderful. What movie? And I was like, oh, Jackass 3D. And she's like, oh.
It's interesting. Earlier this week, I had a chance to go see John Waters in person. I've seen him before, but it got me to think, because I was recording this with you guys, we were just talking about Jackass here, is when I first started, the same with me, Mike. I did not see Jackass when it was on TV. I only watched the movie and then got into all of them, and I absolutely love them too. And there was a moment where I'm like, what is it? Like, why? Like, I love these like art films and foreign film and all of this stuff. And for some reason, like, why do I gravitate towards this too? And there was part of me that goes, that's why I love Waters. And Waters is much the same way. Ooh, 4-hour, horrible, miserable, awful Norwegian. Everything is terrible film. Yes. And then show me something like She Should Have Said No, or Russ Meyer or something. Give me this range. I need this range. I always used to joke. People would ask me about this show when I was co-hosting it all the time with you. And I said, it's great. We do everything from the art house to the outhouse. It's great. I love it. Because it is those that are in the middle. It's those, A Beautiful Mind. It's stuff like that. It's like, those will just be forgotten. People don't care about those. It's always the fringe ends. It's always the most, it's the extremity that seems to be the stuff that has value. So let that be a lesson to you kids. If you're creative, create things that are on the edges, so that way 25 years after you make it, people still sit around and talk about it.
All right, we're going to take another break and play a preview for next week's show right after these brief messages.
There are still no leads as to the identity of
the freaky folk hero remains at large. Sir, what did you see last night?
I heard gunshots, saw blood. Handsome fella had his arm tore off like wet bread, and the creature run off into the night.
He looks like a fucked up hot dog. That part was very shocking to me. Motherfucker.
Can we put that up? Anyone that may have encountered the strange. Breaking news. A group of armed extremists, the Nasty Lads, they've taken hostages at a Mistmeat Lunchatorium downtown.
Let's go live.
We are the Nasty Lads! We are angry!
Who the fuck are you?
What the hell is that?
He's a
The Toxic Avenger.
That's what the kids are calling him. I think it's swell.
That's right. We'll be back next week with a look at The Toxic Avenger 2023. Until then, I want to thank my co-hosts, Rob and Heather. So, Rob, what's the latest with you?
I have finished my second novel since I moved to the high desert. I sent it to you guys. Hopefully, someone will give me some notes. And if you don't like it, then I'll just feel stupid and I won't go any further with it. No, I'm just kidding. So I'm just working on the writing and enjoying my life.
You're stupid. You're stupid. You failed. You failed. Well, how's that make you feel?
Pretty good, actually. Because as we were discussing, it's failures that people will talk about years from now. So that will be nice. Maybe my failures will be my retirement plan because I sure as hell don't have any money in the bank right now. Anyway, moving right along. Things are good. Enjoying my life. And I hope y'all are doing well, too.
And Heather, what's new with you?
Just wrap up being a guest on the Directors Club podcast hosted by Jim Lukowski with Mike White. We talked about Hodorowski, one of my absolute art heroes. Yeah. Where you talk about Santa Sangre and Holy Mountain. That is up live. So you can find that. I was also recently on an episode of In Film We Trust, talking about Russ Meyer's Super Vixens. For all other sundries, I've always got something cooking. And I'm actually currently working on a little thing for the YouTubes right now. But you can go to my Linktree, linktree.com/Mondo Heather. You'll find my articles, my websites, my Patreon, website singular. I don't know why I made it plural, wishful thinking, and all sort of other matters. But yes, linktree.com/Mondo Heather.
Thanks again, folks, for being on the show. Thanks to everybody for listening. Do you want to support physical media and get great movies in the mail? Head over to scarecrow.com and try Scarecrow Video's incredible rent-by-mail service, the largest publicly accessible collection in the world. You'll find films that are entirely unavailable elsewhere. Get what you want when you want it without the scrolling. And yes, they have Freddy Got Fingered. If you want to hear more of me shooting off my mouth, check out some of the other shows that I work on. They are all available at weirdingwaymedia.com. Thanks especially to our Patreon community. If you want to join the community, visit patreon.com/projection booth. Every donation we get helps the projection booth take over the world.
To dress like Superman, go downtown, run around like an asshole, fucking around. I met a man on the street, he was 60 years old. He wanted to fight, so he punched me in the nose. Cause I asked him where he's going, he said none of your business. Snapped my mic in two, I said what is this? My bum is on your lips, my bum is on your lips. I humped a dead moose on MTV for kicks to make people freak out. Suckers react, Eminem talked about it in my favorite rap. I used to wake up my parents, then bam, stole it. People dipping in my bag of tricks, now they're golden. I won't be surprised if Johnny starts to rap, but he'll do it in style, in a Von Dutch hat. My bum is on your lips, my bum is on your lips. And if you get lucky, you can suck my dick. That's right, my bum is on your lips, my bum is on your lips. And if you don't like it, you can suck my dick. I used to fall down on crutches, seeing what would happen. Swam in the ocean with sharks, now I'm rapping. Executives, they gravitate to the biz. And if you don't like it, then you're shot like jizz. So pay attention to your back, smile and shake, and try to do something clever, for goodness sake. Like do aerobics with a bunch of old ladies, and wear pink tights like it is the 1980s. Okay, not so clever, but good for a laugh. I got stuck in handcuffs a couple times in the past. I opened up a bank account, and now it's full. I guess the critics and the media could save the bull. Ha, my bum is on your lips, my bum is on your lips. I used to act funny and talk a lot of shit, but then I moved to Hollywood and got conservative. I didn't want to piss anyone off in the biz. The media could chew you up like a machine, but weebles wobble and they don't fall down, know what I mean? I used to have cancer, I just beat it. You wanna try to take me out, you'll be defeated. I like to do things that have never been done, so if I look kinda strange, that's the reason. My bum is on your lips, my bum is on your lips. And if you don't like it, I think I'll take a shit. My bum is on your lips, my bum is on your lips. And if you don't like it, you can suck my dick. Okay, I went to Japan, put a monkey in my van, kicked off the subway by Charlie Chan. A pocket full of chicken feed for the chickens. Sat in my hotel, read some Chuck Dickens. Then I came back to the USA. I had a quickie rubber stamp divorce to celebrate. I took a shit in the toilet, then I took a drink. Then I stopped worrying about what you think. I put my face on the TV, acting like a jackass. You Kurt Russell, huh? You in my backdraft. I'm glad you followed in my steps with that actress. Not only did you bite me, but now no one knows who's wackiest. My bum is on your lips, my bum is on your lips. And if you don't